Hola amigos de Español Mil. I hope that this video finds you all doing well today. This week we'll be exploring Chapter 2 and the grammar topics covered in Chapter 2. A lot of this you will see though is connected to things that you learned previously back in Chapter 1. So if at any point you find yourself a little rusty on that, like, hey, I know I learned about that, but I just don't exactly remember the details, feel free to go back and revisit our Chapter 1 video. This week we're going to be getting started with the present tense of the verb estar, which is one of the two verbs in the Spanish language that means to be. And we're going to have a quick throwback to something you learned in our previous video, and that is the magical box of Spanish, as I like to call it. So these are your subject pronouns. Hopefully you recall that yo means I, tú is you, informal. We have él, he, ella, she, and usted, you, formal. We also have nosotros and nosotras, both of which mean we. Vosotros and vosotras, which refer to you all, a group of people in Spain. And then ellos and ellas, that mean they. And ustedes, you all in any country other than Spain. Okay, so these are your subject pronouns. As we take a look at the present tense of the verb estar, we're going to fill in that box with your subject pronouns with conjugations of the verb estar. So you end up with yo estoy, tú estás, él, ella, usted está, nosotros estamos, vosotros estáis, and ellos, ellas, ustedes están. Okay, so it's good to go ahead and sort of memorize these conjugations of estar to make sure you know in which box they belong. And of course, as your Spanish progresses, these will just begin to sound natural. So say them with me really quickly. Estoy, estás, está, estamos, estáis, están. Okay, so we typically use estar for two reasons mostly. One of those is to indicate location, to say where someone or something is located. And number two, we also use estar to talk about how someone or something is doing. So we'll get started here with referring to where. It's very common that people hear, ¿Dónde está el baño? You know, where's the restroom? Or ¿Dónde está? Blah, blah, blah. You can use estar to refer to location. So a sentence here, estoy en casa, I'm at home. Or Claudia está en la cocina. París está en Francia. ¿Dónde están los estudiantes? In all of these situations, we're talking about something's location or where. We also use estar to talk about how something is doing. So you may be familiar like, ¿Cómo estás? How are you? You can see here in the little photo, ¿Cómo está usted hoy, señora? How are you doing today, ma'am? Oh, estoy muy enferma. I'm very sick. So referring to a state of being, how someone is doing. Okay, these are some common adjectives that are used with estar. You learned about adjectives in a previous week and how they must agree in gender and number. So, for example, we can look at the word nervioso, nervous. A male who is nervous would be nervioso, but a female who's nervous would be nerviosa. Two males who are nervous would be nerviosos. Two females who are nervous would be nerviosas, and both a male and a female who are nervous would still be nerviosos, because there's at least one male, that masculine form dominates. So os as your ending. Okay, so these are just some various adjectives that you may use with estar. These are in your text and you can review them at your leisure, but I just wanted you to know that these are here. We're going to practice a little bit with estar, and I'm going to do one with you. I'll have you pause your audio and go through and give some more of these a try. As we look at number one, it says, Los padres de Carmen blank contentos. Well, contentos is exactly what it looks like. It means content or happy. And we're saying that los padres de Carmen are happy. Padres are parents. So you have to ask yourself the question, well, would Carmen's parents be I, you, he, she, we, they, or you all? Well, hopefully you're saying, well, Carmen's parents would be they. You know that our they box is our bottom right box here. As we fill that in with an estar word, we end up with están. Okay, so we're going to say that los padres de Carmen están contentos, just like that. Let's do one more. It says that yo blank nervioso porque mañana hay una prueba en mi clase de japonés. So I blank nervioso. Well, you know that yo means I. If we look back at our subject pronoun box, I or yo is this top left box. And as we fill in our estar words, we end up with yo estoy. So we should fill our first blank in here with yo estoy nervioso. Okay? I'd like for you to take a moment, pause your audio, and give numbers 3, 4, and 5 a try for me. Okay, now that you've had a second to try these, you can see a few sentences. Number 3 talks about mi amiga Carmen, my friend Carmen, and it says that she's enojada, she's angry. So Carmen, she, would be our subject. We have to find our she box, which is the bottom left box here. Our estar word that goes with she would be está. So we're going to fill in our blank here by saying that mi amiga Carmen está enojada. Look at number 4. It says, Omar y yo blank muy cansados. So Omar and I, we're very tired. So Omar and I would be I, you, he, she, we, or they. Hopefully you're saying we. This is our top right box for we, nosotros. So we're going to say that nosotros estamos cansados. Estamos should be our answer here. Hopefully you're getting these right so far. And then our last one, number 5, it says, blank listo tú para la prueba. Are you ready for the quiz? Blank listo tú para la prueba. So tú is actually our subject here. You know that tú means you informal, and you know that the estar word that goes with tú should be estás. So we're going to say, ¿estás listo tú para la ¿Estás listo tú para la prueba should be your final answer. Okay, hopefully you're feeling a little better about estar now. Next, we're going to talk about telling time in Spanish. And so in order to do this, this is going to require a prior knowledge of your numbers from 0 through 100, which you did learn in a previous lesson. Again, if you need to revisit those, I have them for you here, all the way from 0 through 100. So we'll be referencing this chart over and over. But remember, the smart thing to do here is just memorize from 0 through 19, and then after that you just kind of have to remember your tens. So 0 through 19, and then 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, so on and so forth up to 100. So just a quick recap of those. We have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. This is where we have to kind of think here. As we get into the teens, specifically 16 through 19, we're doing a little math. So 16 is 10 plus 6, 16. 17 is 10 plus 7, 17. So on and so forth, 18, 19, and then we get to 20 and we have 20. Okay, kind of like you're getting a venti at Starbucks, except it's a 20. Okay, so 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, so on and so forth. And then 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. Okay, so as we look at time in Spanish, this is where things get a little tricky. If you want to say that it is a certain time, you have two options, which you can see here in blue. If it is 1 o'clock, we're going to say es la una. It is 1 o'clock. If it's any time any other than 1 o'clock, we're going to use son las and then the time. So for example, son las dos, it's 2 o'clock. Son las tres, it's 3 o'clock. So on and so forth. So again, if it's 1 o'clock, we use es la una. That's it. Es la una. That's the only time you can ever say es la, as if it's 1 o'clock. For everything else, we use son las and then the number. Okay? Now, the same is true if we want to say something happens at a certain time. For example, the concert is at 1 o'clock. The concert is at 8 o'clock. If it's 1 o'clock, we say a la una. And if it's at a time other than 1, we say a las and then the number. So at 2 o'clock, a las dos. At 3 o'clock, a las tres. So on and so forth. So for right now, we're just going to focus on the blue, though, how to say that it is a certain time. So again, es la or son las. If you're looking here at this expression, it says that it's 2 o'clock. So first you have to decide, well, am I going to use es la or son las? Well, it's 2 o'clock. It's not 1, so we can't use es la. We can only use es la for 1 o'clock. So this is 2. We're going to start with son las. and 2 o'clock is son las dos. If I want to say it's 3:20, again, ask yourself, son las or es la? Well, obviously it's not one, so we're going to go with son las. It's 3 o'clock, son las tres, and it's 3 o'clock and 20 minutes after. So and in Spanish is y, written as y. So son las tres y, and then you may remember to say 20, we say 20. Son las tres y 20. It's 3 and 20 literally. Okay, now you may want to add, if it's right on the dot a certain time, like it's 3 o'clock on the dot, we're going to say son las tres en punto. The en punto part communicates on the dot. You also have some words here like mediodía, literally the middle of the day or noon, and medianoche, literally the middle of the night or midnight. These can also be used when telling time as well. Finally, if you want to add the AM or the PM portion onto time, to say in the morning, we literally say of the morning, de la mañana. To say in the afternoon, we say de la tarde. And to say in the evening, we say de la noche. Okay, so AM or PM, de la mañana, de la tarde, or de la noche. So I have a couple here that I want you to give a try. I'm going to do number one for you. It tells us it's 5:30. Okay, so something you need to know before you move forward about 30 and 15. There are two different ways, so I'm actually going to add one more little slide for you here. Now, if I want to say it is 15 minutes after, you may have a grandparent or someone who likes to say, oh, it's a quarter after. In Spanish, you can say y cuarto, which means exactly that. It's a quarter after or 15 minutes. Okay. You may also hear someone, instead of saying it's 6:30 or it's 5:30, they may say that it's half past 5 or half past 6. That's also common in Spanish to say y media, which would be 30 minutes after. Okay. So y cuarto or y media. For example, if I want to say that it is 3:15, I can say son las 3:15. It's 3 and a quarter. Or I can say son las 3:15. Now, literally that means it's 3 and 15 minutes. So, in the same way that you hear people in English say, oh, it's a quarter after 3 or it's 3:15, we hear that same variety in Spanish, either son las 3:15 or son las 3:15. Now, depending on the country you're in, they may prefer one of these options over another. For my Spanish lab purposes, I would default to the cuarto and media when you're unsure. Son las 3:15 or son las 3:15. I recommend the cuarto for my Spanish lab. Okay. Now, something else you need to know about time, and this is sort of interesting. After the 30-minute mark, and I have a little slideshow here that will help you. After the 30-minute mark, rather than saying that it's 3 o'clock and 45 minutes, we in Spanish tend to go backwards. Okay, so up until 30 minutes, you can say it's 2 and 15, it's 2 and 25, it's 2 and 30. But whenever you get into anything above 30, it's more common to subtract from the hour that follows. For example, with 2:45, instead of saying it's 2 and 45, in Spanish you might say it's 3 o'clock minus 15 minutes, which would give you 2:45. If the time were 5:50, instead of saying 5 and 50, you might say that it's 6 o'clock minus 10 minutes. Okay, so you can go either way with these. And this clock sort of helps to illustrate that with when to use the and when to use the menos. So I'm going to do some examples for you here as we look at 5:30 on number one. To say that it is 5, so remember, are we starting out with son las or es la? It's not 1 o'clock, so we are going to start out with son las. It's 5 o'clock, so son las 5, and it's 5 o'clock and 30 minutes, so son las 5:30, or you may also say y 30, depending on where you are. Media is more formal, so son las 5:30, and then in the afternoon, we would say de la tarde. Okay, let's do another one together. Number two, tells us that it's 6:15. So we may start out either with son las or es la. Obviously, it's not one, so we're going to start with son las. It's 6 o'clock, so son las seis. And for 15 minutes after, again, you can say son las 6:15, which works. Or the more formal way that I'd like for you to use on my Spanish lab, son las 6:15. Okay? Now, when you get over here to number 3, it's 8:40. So now you have to decide, well, am I going to say it's 8 and 40? Or am I going to say it's 9 minus 20? Technically, both are correct, okay? But generally, after that 30-minute mark, it is customary to subtract from the hour that is coming. So we'll do it both ways. We were doing 8:40. We would start with son las, because it's not 1 o'clock. It is 8, son las ocho. And and then 40 in Spanish is cuarenta. That's a lot to write, though. It's 8 and 40. That's a lot. So let's do it the other way. Instead of saying it's 8 and 40, let's say it's 9 o'clock minus 20. So 9 son las nueve minus, or menos in Spanish, son las nueve menos, and it's 9 o'clock minus 20 minutes. So son las nueve menos veinte. Okay? Hopefully, you're feeling better about those. I want you to take a moment, pause your audio, and give numbers 4, 5, and 6 a try. Okay, so as you're looking at these, on number 4, you have 12 o'clock a.m. Okay, so obviously that is 12 o'clock in the morning, not 12 o'clock at night. So to say that it's 12 o'clock noon, so to speak, we're going to say son las, because it's not 1. Son las doce. It is 12. And specifically, this is 12 o'clock in the morning. Son las doce de la mañana. Now, I also taught you earlier that for noon, you can say, I'm backwards here. This is 12 o'clock a.m., which is midnight. I always get those confused. Sorry. This is 12 o'clock a.m., which is midnight. So you're going to say that son las doce de la mañana, which is 12 in the morning, or we would say midnight. For these two, I try to specify rather than saying doce de la mañana or doce de la tarde. I tend, in my natural speaking of Spanish, to say it's midnight or it's noon, because the 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. just always are complicated. So es medianoche for it's midnight, or es mediodía for it's noon. So medianoche in this case, because it's midnight, is the better response in this case. Okay, look back at number 5. It tells you it's 9:45. Remember, you have two options. You could say it's 9 and 45 in the morning, a.m., or you could go the other way. You could say that it's 10 o'clock minus 15 minutes in the morning. Now, remember, anything more than 30 minutes, it's most popular to do it the backwards way and start with the hour that's coming. So rather than saying 9 and 45 here, we're going to say 10 minus 15, or 10 minus a quarter. So you could say son las 10, it is 10, minus menos cuarto, 15 or a quarter, de la mañana. Now, it would also be correct here, instead of saying son las 10 menos cuarto, to say son las 10 menos quince. Again, for formality and my Spanish lab purposes, I recommend using the cuarto. Son las 10 menos cuarto de la mañana. Okay? As we look at our last one, number 6, this is the first one you've had with 1 o'clock. Remember, you're asking yourself the question, well, do I use son las or do I use es la? In this case, it is not a time other than 1. It is 1 o'clock. So instead of saying son las, we're going to start out with es la here. It's 1 o'clock, so es la una. And then it's 1 o'clock and 25 minutes. Es la 1:25. And this is 1:25 in the afternoon, 1:25 p.m. So we're going to say es la 1:25 de la tarde, in the afternoon. So hopefully you're getting a better feel for that. So it all goes back to what we talked about first. If you're saying it is a certain time, you're going to say son las and the time, unless it's 1 o'clock, and then you're going to say es la una. Okay? Now, you may also be asked in some cases, though, to say that a class is at a certain time, or practice is at a certain time. So in this case, we're going to use the red words here. Again, if it's 1 o'clock, we say a la una. If it's any time any other than 1, we say a las in whatever that time is. So Look at the example you see here. You can see someone's horario, someone's schedule. It tells you here in the model, we're talking about la clase de inglés, which you can see is English class here. And you can see it's at 9:30. So was designed to be a speaking activity, and in my in-person classes, I do use this as a speaking activity. But you might ask someone, what time is your English class? ¿A qué hora es la clase de inglés? At what hour is the class of English, literally? And that student's going to say that it is at 9:30 in the morning. So es a las 9:30 de la mañana, or es a las 9:30 de la mañana, either one. Let's say we were talking about Spanish class, which you can see here on the schedule is at 11:45, assuming still here in the morning. So if I'm student A, I'm going to ask at what time is Spanish class. So instead of saying a qué hora es la clase de inglés, I'm going to say a qué hora es la clase de español. Student B is going to come back and tell me that it's at 11:45. So you could say es a, I needed to type in caps here, sorry. Es a las 12, it's at 12, menos cuarto, that would mean that it's 12 o'clock minus a quarter. You could also say in this case that es a las 12 menos 15, it's 12 o'clock minus 15 minutes, or you can say es a las 11:45. So 3 different ways to say the exact same thing. It's at 12 o'clock minus a quarter, it's at 12 o'clock minus 15 minutes, or it's at 11:45. All of these communicate that the class is 11:45. It just depends on which one that particular My Spanish Lab assignment might be looking for. Typically, I recommend going with the first option here. It is past the 30-minute mark, it's 45, so we're going to go the backwards way. We're going to say that it's 12, and then minus a quarter. So las 12 menos cuarto. So technically, all of these are correct, though. So hopefully you're feeling a little better about time. Okay, so as we look at the formation of yes or no questions, we're going to start with a basic statement, and there are 3 ways that you can turn this statement into a question. So take a basic sentence. Blaine es estadounidense. Blaine is from the United States, right? He's from the U.S. And take that exact statement, Blaine is from the U.S., and throw some question marks around it. Blaine es estadounidense? And it turns that declaration, that statement that Blaine is from the United States, into a question. So we've created a question just by throwing some question marks around each side. In natural speech, you can tell this because the inflection of your voice changes. Blaine's from the United States, or Blaine's from the United States, right? You can tell a difference in the statement and the question. Same way in Spanish. Blaine es estadounidense. Blaine es estadounidense. You can sort of hear the difference there in the question, or in written Spanish, just look for the question marks. Another option you can do is you can switch the subject and the verb. So instead of saying subject first, Blaine es, we can switch it around and say es Blaine estadounidense. So we've just changed the order of the subject and the verb. So instead of Blaine is from the United States, literally, is Blaine from the United States? Es Blaine estadounidense, with question marks around it. Okay, and the third way you can turn a statement into a question in Spanish is just by adding the word verdad at the end, which means right. So, Blaine es estadounidense, verdad? Blaine's from the US, right? Let's look at another example with these. So let's take a basic statement. Riley is good looking. Riley es guapa. Okay, let's take that and let's go through and turn it into questions. So we want to ask, is Riley good looking? Is she attractive? So we're going to take Riley es guapa and just throw questions around it. Riley es guapa? We've taken that, haven't changed anything. We just put some question marks around it, and now it is a question. Or we can invert the subject and the verb. Instead of saying Riley es guapa, es Riley guapa. Okay? Or we have the final option there of saying Riley es guapa, verdad? Riley is attractive, right? Okay, so hopefully those are usually pretty easy for most students. Next, we're looking at interrogative words, and these are some of my favorite things in Spanish. Interrogative words, in the same way that you might get interrogated if you watch Criminal Minds or anything, you're familiar with the interrogation rooms. In this case, we're just looking at these interrogative words or question words in Spanish. So there's a chart here that tells you all interrogative words in Spanish. You have como, which can mean how or what, cuál or cuáles, which or which ones. Cuál is which singular, and cuáles, which ones. You have cuándo, which means when. Cuánto, how much, or cuántos, cuántas, etc. Dónde, where. De dónde, from where. A dónde, to where. So let's hear those again. Dónde by itself, where. De dónde, from where. Or a dónde, to where. You also have por qué, which means why. Qué, what. Quién, who, or quiénes, who all. And then de quién, whose, or of whom, literally. So you could study these and memorize them, which I do suggest that you do, study them as flashcards, but I have a fun way to help you remember these. There's a little song to the tune of Jingle Bells, which is very corny and it will get stuck in your head and I think help you remember these question words. So let's take a moment and listen to that song together.
To where, cuáles, which ones, a qué hora, at what time, vamos a comer, a dónde, to where, cuáles, which ones, a qué hora, at what time, vamos a comer, hey, por qué, why, cuándo, when, qué, what, dónde, where, cuánto, how much, cómo, how, quién, means, who is there, hey. ¿Por qué, why, cuándo, when, qué, what, dónde, where, cuánto, how much, cómo, how, quién, means, who is there. A dónde, to where, cuál, which, cuáles, which ones, de quién, of whom, con quién, with whom, vamos a correr. A dónde, to where, cuál, which, cuáles, which ones, de quién, of whom, con quién, with whom, vamos a correr. ¡Ey! ¿Por qué, why, cuándo, when, qué, what, dónde, where, cuánto, how much, cómo, how, quién, means, who is there. ¡Hey! ¿Por qué, why, cuándo, when, qué, what, dónde, where, cuánto, how much, cómo, how, quién, means, who is there. A dónde, to where, cuáles, which ones, a qué hora, at what time, vamos a comer. A dónde, to where, cuáles, which ones, a qué hora, at what time, vamos a comer. Hey, ¿por qué, why, cuándo, when, qué, what, dónde, where, cuánto, how much, cómo, how, quién, means, who is there. Hey, ¿por qué, why, cuándo, when, qué, what, dónde, where, cuánto, how much, cómo, how, quién, means, who is there. Hey.
Okay, so I'm going to stop there for now. It does continue on. I really strongly recommend singing this song. You can play it while you're in the shower, you can play it while you're in the car, whatever works for you. I know it sounds corny, but I promise if you sing this song, you will know these words and it will help you not only in Spanish 1, but also as you go to Spanish 2 and any future classes that you have. If you just forget the word, you can slowly start singing the song and it comes back really easily. So, por qué, why, cuándo, when, qué, what, dónde, where, cuánto, how much, como, how, quién, means who is there. Hey, so it's lots of fun, especially in my in-person classes. I make all my students sing this song, so be glad you're in the online section. Okay, so something you may be asked to do with these words this week is to go through and fill in a sentence with the correct question word. So for example, here in number 1, you see blank es tu cumpleaños. Blank is your birthday, and this person answers and says, mi cumpleaños es el 22 de junio. My birthday is the 22nd of June. So we're asking something is your birthday. Obviously, we're trying to ask when. So if you sing your song, you can kind of get to those all the way through. So, por qué, why, cuando, when. So hopefully you're saying cuando here is when. When is your birthday? Cuando es tu cumpleaños? Let's do a couple more. Number 2, blank está el baño. You know that a baño is a bathroom. And someone answers and says, well, el baño está dentro del restaurante. The bathroom is inside of the restaurant. So in this case, we're asking, where is the bathroom? Por qué, why, cuando, when, qué, what, donde, where, right? So you should have donde here for where is the bathroom. Donde está el baño? Okay, and then as we look at number 3, blank estás nerviosa. Blank, you nervous. And then the person says, well, estoy nerviosa porque tenemos un examen hoy. I'm nervous because we have an exam today. So obviously we're asking here, why are you nervous? So why in Spanish should be por qué, separated with a space, por qué. Okay, so on your exam or on My Spanish Lab, you might ask me to do something kind of like this. Here are some various sentences, and then you have all your question words over here to choose from in the box. I'm going to have you pause your audio for just a moment and give numbers 1 through 5 a try. Okay, now that you've had a second to pause your audio, let's take a look at these. Number 1 asks you, blank eres tú? And the person responds and says, well, soy de Chicago. So we're asking blank or you, and the person answers and says, I'm from Chicago. But we're asking, where are you from, or from where are you in Spanish? So we can't just say, ¿dónde eres tú? Because ¿dónde by itself means just you. We want to ask, from where are you? ¿De dónde eres tú? From where are you? ¿De dónde eres tú? What about number 2? It asks you, blank está Madrid. Blank is Madrid. And then the person says back, en España. It's in Spain. So we're asking, where is Madrid? In this case, we just need plain old ¿dónde? ¿Dónde está Madrid? Where's Madrid? In number 3, we're asking, blank estudias, something you study. And the person comes back and says, well, estudio español. So blank are you studying? And I study Spanish. So we're probably asking, what do you study? And if you sing your song, por qué, why, cuando, when, you should arrive at qué, what, dónde, where. So qué estudias? What are you studying? Oh, I'm studying Spanish. Estudio español. Number 4, blank es la señora. And the person answers and says, oh, es mi profesora. So blank is the woman. And this person says back, oh, that's my professor. Es mi profesora. We're asking, who is the woman? So por qué, why, cuando, when, qué, what, dónde, where, cuánto, how much, cómo, how, and quién means who is there. So we should have quién for who here. ¿Quién es la señora? Okay? And then in number 5, blank es esta mochila. And then, oh, es de Pablo. So something is this backpack, and then, oh, it's Pablo's. So we're asking, to whom does this backpack belong? Or of whom, we say in Spanish. Of whom is the backpack? So we should say not just quién, but de quién. Of whom is the backpack? De quién es esta mochila? Okay, so hopefully you're feeling relatively good about these. Next, we are going to take a look at conjugating verbs in Spanish. And this is kind of a tricky process that requires going back to something you already know, and that's your magical box of Spanish. I know I keep bringing this up, but make sure you know these subject pronouns and understand how the box works. So you have yo, which is I, tú, you, él, he, ella, she, usted, you formal, nosotros and nosotras, which both mean we, vosotros and vosotras, which both mean you all, used only in Spain, ellos and ellas, that mean they, and then ustedes, which is you all. So We're going to take a verb now, and you may notice from studying your vocab that all of our verbs end in AR, ER, IR. We're going to start by just conjugating verbs that end in AR, and we're going to start with a basic one like hablar. Hablar is to talk or to speak. But I wouldn't go down and just say yo hablar, tu hablar, I to talk, you to talk. That doesn't work, right? You would be weirded out if you walked up to someone and said, I to talk English. Do you to talk Spanish? Right? That just doesn't make sense. You want to say that, oh, I speak English. Do you speak Spanish? So in order to do that, we have to conjugate this verb hablar, and we do that by chopping off the AR on the end. I always tell my students you're left with HABL after you chop off the AR, which is hobble. So you need to then hobble on down, carry down the HABL by itself in all your boxes. And you're then going to go through and throw your endings on the end. So for the yo form, for an AR verb, we add back an O, hablo. For the to form, we add back an AS, so we end up with hablas. In the he or she form, we add back an A, so we end up with habla. In the nosotros, we add back amos, AMOS. In the vosotros, A with an accent, IS. And in the ellos, ellas, ustedes, we add back an AN. So once you throw these endings on the end, o, as, a, amos, ais, an, you end up with conjugative verbs. Hablo. Instead of to speak, hablar, you're saying I speak, hablo. Hablas, you speak. Habla, he, she, or you formal speaks. Nosotros hablamos, we speak. Vosotros habláis, you all in Spain speak. Or hablan, they or you all speak. Okay? Now, this process that you just learned of removing the AR and adding o, as, a, amos, ais, or an works for all verbs in Spanish that end in AR, not just hablar. So for example, let's say you had the verb bailar, which means to dance. Okay, I want you to take a moment, pause your audio, and go through and give this verb a try. Okay, now that you've had a second to try these, let's take a look at bailar. The first thing we're going to do as we conjugate bailar is chop off our AR, so you're left with just the B-A-I-L part, bail, if you will. To say that I dance, in the yo form, we're going to add back an O, bailo. In the to form, to say that you dance, we're going to add an AS, bailas. In the he or she form, to say that he or she dances, we're going to add back an A, baila. In the nosotros, bailamos, we dance. Vosotros, bailáis, you all dance. And ellos, ellas, ustedes, bailan, they dance. So again, just by chopping off the AR and adding those endings, o, as, a, amos, ais, and an, we've been able to conjugate our AR verbs. Okay, so look at this photo here. You see, ¿qué estudias? What do you study? So they've taken the verb estudiar, to study, they've chopped off the AR, and they put it back in the to form using this to form ending of AS. So we're asking, ¿qué estudias? What are you studying? And this person says, oh, well, estudio matemáticas. So again, they took the AR off of estudiar, chopped off the AR, and added an O in the yo form to say that I'm studying math. So estudias, you study. Estudio, I study. Hopefully you can see how the endings there affect our verb conjugations. So you have a couple here that I'd like for you to take a moment and try. It gives you a subject, in this case Juan, and it gives you a verb, trabajar. You have to start by asking yourself, well, would Juan be I, you, he, she, we, they, or you all? Juan is obviously a man, so we would say Juan, he. He is my bottom left box here, él. And my ending for an AR verb is just an A. So as I look at my verb trabajar, in order to conjugate this verb, I need to chop off the AR, the ending, and add back my AR ending, which is just an A. So I should say that Juan trabaja, Juan works, trabaja. Okay, let's do another one. In number 2, you have vosotros and cantar, you all, and to sing. So the first thing I do when conjugating a verb is chop off the AR. Okay, so that part's gone. Vosotros is you all in Spain, And you know that my vosotros ending here is A with an accent, IS, pronounced as ice. So I need to go on and throw my ending here on the end, and I get cantáis, cantáis, you all sing. Okay? I want you to take a moment and try numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6 for me. Okay, now that you've had a second to try those, as you look at these, you know the first thing you're going to do is chop off your AR. Tu and caminar, you, to walk. So I've removed my AR and caminar. I need to find my ending for the to form, this middle left box, which you know is an AS. So to say that you walk, I'm going to say tu caminas. You walk. Number 4, I have yo ayudar a mi madre. I, to help my mom. If I want to say that I help my mom, take your verb ayudar, chop off the AR, find your yo box, which is my top left, and then find the appropriate ending for yo, which should just be a plain old O. So I'm going to say that yo ayudo a mi madre. I help my mom. Okay, check out number 5. Riley y Tony and mirar la televisión. So we're saying that Riley and Tony, and then we have mirar la televisión, to watch TV. So start with your verb mirar. The first thing I should do to mirar is, good, hopefully you're saying chop off the AR. Once I've done that, we next have to decide, well, would Riley and Tony be I, you, he, she, we, they, or you all? Riley and Tony would be two males, so we're saying they. Riley and Tony, they. They, ellos, is my bottom right box here. And my correct ending for an AR verb is an AN. So I've chopped off my AR. I'm going to throw on an AN and say that Riley and Tony miran la televisión. Okay? And then check out number 6. It says mis amigos y yo, my friends and I. And then we have tomar café, to drink coffee. So my friends and I would be I, you, he, she, we, or they. Hopefully you're saying we. My friends and I should be we, which is my top right box, nosotros. If I find my proper ending here to go with nosotros, it's AMOS. So I'm going to take tomar, my verb, chop off the AR, and throw on an AMOS. Tomamos. Mis amigos y yo tomamos café. Okay, so a little more practice for you, and this involves reading and understanding as well. It's going to give you a brief sentence here, and I want you to go through and correctly conjugate the verb in parentheses. So number 1 tells you that los estudiantes siempre escuchar en clase. The students always, and then escuchar, to listen in class. So we want to say that the students, they always listen. We're going to take our verb escuchar here. In order to conjugate it, we need to chop off the AR on the end. And the students, to say that they listen, we're going to find our they box, which is our bottom right box. You know, our ending here should be an AN. And we're going to say that los estudiantes siempre escuchan, with an AN on the end. Okay, I'd like for you guys to try numbers 2 and 3. So take a moment, pause the audio, and unpause it whenever you're ready. Okay, now that you've got a second to try these, number 2 tells us that a muchos de los estudiantes les gusta practicar deportes. So a lot of the students like to practice sports, and it tells you that Tony y Riley luchar para la Universidad de King. So we're saying that Riley and Tony, they wrestle for King. So if luchar is to wrestle, we need to take luchar and we need to conjugate it by taking off the, hopefully you're saying the AR. Riley and Tony would be they. To say that they wrestle, we're going to use the same ending as before, an AN, which is our bottom right box, the they box. So Riley and Tony luchan, they wrestle, para la Universidad de King. Okay, and number 3, a Profesor Harrison le gusta mucho tomar café. Professor Harrison really likes to drink coffee. Él, tomar 5 tazas de café todos los días. So we're saying that he drinks 5 cups of coffee every day. So we need to take the verb tomar and conjugate it by taking off the AR. If we want to say that he drinks, you should know hopefully by now that he is our bottom left box. Él means he. So our bottom left box here, our correct ending for an AR verb is just an A. So we're going to say that Señor Harrison, él toma, he drinks 5 tazas de café todos los días. All right, now that you've had some practice with conjugating these verbs that end in AR, I now want you to learn about how to do verbs that end in ER or IR. It's the same sort of process as what you went through before. So for example, with the verb comer, we're going to conjugate it the same way. We're going to take off the ending. The ending of your verb in Spanish will always end in AR, ER, IR, always. You know how to conjugate AR verbs by chopping off the AR. It's the same thing here with an ER verb. We're just going to chop off the ER. We're left with COM, so carry that part down, or as I like to say, come on down. As you carry that down, you now have a new set of endings that are different than your AR verbs. So in the yo form, we're still adding back an O, como. So if comer meant to eat, como means I eat. So I've chopped off my ER and I've added an O in the yo form. In the to form, we're going to add back an ES instead of an AS. We're adding back an ES because this is an ER verb. So como, I eat. Comes, you eat. Come, he or she eats, adding back an E. Comemos, we eat. Comes, you all in Spain eat. And comen, they or you all eat. Okay? So you'll notice your AR verb endings were o, as, a, amos, ais, and an. For an ER verb, your endings are o, ace, a, amos, ace, and in. Okay? So, take another basic verb like escribir. To conjugate this verb, you can probably guess you're going to start by taking off the ending, which in this case is the IR. You're left with escrib. The verb escribir means to write. You can almost see the word scribe here inside of escribir. Escribir is to write. I need to throw my endings here on the end, which are very similar to my ER verb endings. These are my IR endings. So in the yo form, I'm adding back an O. In the to form, es. Sounds familiar so far, right? Just like the ER ending. So O, es. In the he or she form, e. In the we form, instead of emos, emos, my IR verbs are a little bit different. I'm adding back emos, imos. This is an IR verb, not an ER verb. So emos instead of amos. For the vosotros form, we're adding back is, is. And then in the ellos, ellas, ustedes form, an en. So you may notice as you compare these with your ER verb endings, they are exactly the same as your ER verbs, except for this nosotros and vosotros. Instead of emos, emos, which is our ER verb ending, we have imos, which is our IR verb ending. Instead of ace, which is our ER verb ending, we have is for our IR verb ending. All the others are the same, O, S, A, and N. Okay, so as we look at some practice activities here, on number 1 you have Ben y Tomás and beber. We're trying to say that Ben and Thomas, that they drink. So we need to take our verb beber, we need to chop off our ER, and Ben and Thomas would be they. So we're going to use our ER verb endings here for the they box, which would be an EN, which we're going to add back here to the end and say that Ben and Thomas beben, they drink. Let's do another one. Number 2 says that Paxton y yo comer. Well, Paxton y yo would be I, you, he, she, we, or they. Good. Hopefully you're saying we. Paxton and I would be we. Comer was an ER verb. So I'll go back to my ER verb endings here. Nosotros means we, so I'm using my top right box here. My correct ending should be amos. So I'm going to say that Paxton y yo, take off my ER and comer, add back amos. Paxton y yo comemos. Okay, I want you to take a moment, pause your audio, and give numbers 3, 4, and 5 a try for me. Okay, now that you've had a second to try these, you can see number 3 says yo and deber. Even if you don't know what the verb deber means, you can still conjugate it. The first thing we should do when conjugating a verb is remove the AR, ER, IR. In this case, this is an ER verb, so let's chop off our ER. Go back over to our ER verb endings and find the yo box. You know that O is our ER verb ending that goes with yo. So let's throw an O on the end here. And debo should be our final answer. Debo, I should. In number 4, you're given the verb escribir, to write again. Escribir is an IR verb, so we're going to chop off our IR. Tu is our subject. If we go back to our IR verb endings, the to form of escribir here should be escribes. So we'll throw on our es ending, escribes. Okay? And number 5, vosotros in vender. Vender is to sell, just like a vendor sells things. So take vender, chop off your er. This is the vosotros form for our er verb endings. You can see vosotros here. Our ending is es, E-I-S. So I'm going to throw that ending here on the end. And I end up with vendéis. Vendéis, you all sell. Okay, hopefully you're getting a better feel for these. There is additional practice that you will continue to have with these in My Spanish Lab if you need it. And you can always rewatch the videos as many times as you need. The final thing that I want to talk to you about today is conjugating the verb tener, which means to have. So we've done lots of conjugating this video. We started out with estar, we went to AR, ER, and IR verbs, and now we're doing tener. So verbs like tener and estar, they don't follow the normal grammar rules that you've been learning. You can't just chop off the ER and add an O, es, a, amos, es, and in. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. These are irregular. So at this point in your Spanish learning careers, I would recommend just memorizing these. For estar and tener, try to just memorize your endings. But as you get into the more advanced classes, you'll start to learn grammar rules for why these work the way that they do. But as we start with tener, you sort of have to memorize here. Tener is the verb that means to have. If I want to say that I have, you're given the form tengo, tengo. Again, this doesn't follow your normal grammar rules because if you just took off the ER and added an O, you would have teno, T-E-N-O. But it doesn't work like that. These are irregular. This is an irregular verb, so make sure you memorize these. So, yo tengo, I have. Tú tienes, you have. Él, ella, usted tiene, he or she has. Nosotros tenemos, we have. Vosotros tenéis, you all have. And ellos, ellas, ustedes tienen, they have, or you all have. So, for example, you can see a sentence here, tengo pelo moreno. I have brown hair. Notice we say hair brown in Spanish. The adjective comes after the noun, tengo pelo moreno. Okay, I have brown hair. Something else you need to know about tener is you can take the word que, Q-U-E, and add this after any conjugated form of tener to say what someone has to do. Okay, so tengo pelo moreno did not have a K. I have brown hair does not need a to in there. I'm not saying I have two brown hair. I'm just saying I have brown hair. Tengo pelo moreno. But in this sentence, tengo que comer la pizza. I have to eat the pizza. It would not make sense to leave the K out in this sentence. If you just said tengo comer la pizza, I have eat the pizza. That doesn't sound good. I have to eat the pizza, right? Tengo que comer la pizza. And you'll have some examples of these in the slides that follow. First, I want to do a little knowledge check with you. On number 1 here, you're given the various conjugations of tener to the right. Number 1 gives you the subject of tú, and we're asking if tú blank estudiar esta noche. We're asking, do you blank study tonight? So we should be asking either do you have study tonight or do you have to study tonight? Hopefully you're saying, well, do you have to? So you know there's automatically going to be a K after your tener word. Only one of these fits that profile in our answer, so it has to be B. And of course, the tener word that goes with tu should be tienes, as you can tell from going back to your magical box. Tu tienes. Number 2 tells us that nosotros blank clase en 5 minutos. We're saying that we blank class in 5 minutes. So we have class in 5 minutes or we have to class in 5 minutes. Hopefully you're saying we have. We're going to take the tener form that goes with nosotros, and that should be tenemos. So our answer here for number 2 should be C. Nosotros tenemos clase en 5 minutos. Okay, and then number 3. Tu blank un cuaderno rojo. You blank a red notebook. So you have a red notebook or you have to a red notebook. Hopefully you're saying you have, so we just need tener. We don't need a K after it. We're going to find the tu form of tener. Which you go back to your box. The tu form of tener is tienes. So you should have letter A for number 3. Okay, I want to give you some practice with these one last time. So again, you're choosing between tener, which by itself means to have, or tener que, which is to have to. Don't forget to conjugate the verb tener. You can't just say yo tener que, I too have to, you too have to. You need to conjugate tener and say I have, you have, he or she has. So you're going to be using tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, tenéis, tienen, one of those tener words. So look at number 1. A las 4 de la tarde, Paco blank asistir a clase. So at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Paco has or has to attend class. Well, obviously has to makes more sense here. So you automatically know that after the word tener, you're going to need a K. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in here so I don't forget it later. Go ahead and throw my K in. Okay. And I'm saying at 4 o'clock that Paco, that he has to. We know Paco would be he. If we go back to our tener conjugations and find our he box, which is the bottom left, él, we're going to take that form of tener, which as you can see here would be tiene, and fill in the blank. And we're going to say that a las 4 de la tarde, Paco tiene que asistir a clase. He has to attend class. Let's try another one. Number 2 asks you, ¿qué blank tú en la mochila? What blank you in your backpack? So we're asking what do you have in your backpack, or what do you have to in your backpack? So in this case, what do you have makes more sense. We do not need a K. You know my subject here is tú. Go back and find your tener form that goes with tú, and it should be that ¿qué tienes tú en la mochila? I want you to take a moment, pause your audio, and give numbers 3 through 8 a try here. Okay, now that you've had a second to try these, number 3 tells us that yo blank muchos amigos. I blank a lot of friends. So I have a lot of friends or I have to a lot of friends. Well, I have makes more sense here. So we're going to be using just plain old tener, because I'm not saying I have to do something, just plain old tener. The yo form of tener from your magical box of Spanish here is tengo. So we're going to say that yo tengo muchos amigos. I have a lot of friends. What about number 4 though? Nosotros blank leer dos capítulos. So we blank read 2 chapters. So we have read 2 chapters or we have to read 2 chapters. In this case, we're saying that we have to do something. So we need to throw a K in here because we have to do something. If you find the nosotros word that goes with the have, you can see that the nosotros form of tener is tenemos. And we're going to say that nosotros tenemos que leer dos capítulos. We have to read 2 chapters. What about number 5? Ellos no blank una computadora. They do not have a computer or they do not have to a computer. In this case, just to have, it makes more sense. They do not have a computer. So ellos is my subject here. Find the verb tener that corresponds with ellos and you're given tienen. So we should say that ellos no tienen una computadora. They do not have a computer. Same thing with number 6. This one often tricks people up. El libro blank muchos ejemplos buenos. So the book has a lot of good examples, or the book has to a lot of good examples. In this case, we're just saying that the book has a lot of good examples, so we do not need a K. We can use just plain old tener. But this is where people get confused. Well, would the book be I, you, he, she, we, they, or you all? None of the above. The book is considered to be it in Spanish, and you may recall from a previous lecture that for it, for things that are singular in the third person, we use this bottom left box, he, she, or it. So in this case, we're going to use the tener form, tiene. So el libro tiene muchos ejemplos buenos. The book has a lot of good examples. And as we look at number 7, you see that tú blank mucha tarea, ¿no? So you blank a lot of homework, don't you? You have a lot of homework, don't you? Or you have to a lot of homework. In this case, we're saying that just plain old you have. The tener word that goes with tú should be tienes. And we're going to say that tú tienes mucha tarea, ¿no? And our last one, yo blank escribir un trabajo. So I have write a paper, or I have to write a paper. In this case, have to is your better option. So we're going to take tener que, you know that the que is used when you have to do something. To say that I have to, the yo form of tener should be tengo. So we're going to say that yo tengo que escribir un trabajo. I have to write a paper. I hope that you found this video to be helpful. If at any point you have any questions about anything you're learning, feel free at any point to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help you and give you guidance. But I hope that these help sort of supplement what you're already reading and reviewing in your book. Have a great week, everyone.